All right, everybody. Want to welcome everybody that's watching, whether you found us on social media, on YouTube, or you were recommended by a friend. We have a special guest with us, Coach Mike Carroll. We want to welcome you all the way from Texas. Thank you for making time today to speak about the beautiful game, to speak about your journey, to get to know you as a person as well. Very important because, I think a lot of us miss the person behind the coach, right? And that's a very important thing. Just like we as coaches should be focusing on the person, not just the player, right? Because that's a huge thing for getting to know your players. But we're interested in getting to know Coach and his journey. So welcome, Coach. How are you?
I'm doing great. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Good. So I've been, following the journey on social media, on Twitter specifically. I know you say you just joined Instagram as well to share your journey as well. I'm very impressed with how your teams play, what you focus on, and why. It's very intriguing because I think similar to the book we were sharing before the interview started. I think the roots and the tree that you're trying to instill players with and the philosophy and the way is very important, because I think it's a global way of seeing the game, right? And it's very different to what most are doing here. So it's exciting. I'm excited to talk to you more about that. So I want to start off with just your journey, in this game, this sport that the whole world loves. Can you tell us when this whole soccer thing started for you? How old were you? Were you playing, coach, etc.?
As early as I can remember, I think it was 3 when I was in my first league. 3 or 4. Yeah, I was young. My mom was very involved in the sport, and my uncle were both. My uncle played collegiately, Division One, and so I was introduced to the sport at a very young age. I grew up with soccer balls in the house, and just playing around with the ball, and so I think I played my first was like some local independent recreational type thing age 3 and 4 in Dallas, Texas, and I never stopped playing. Right, I went all the way into college, and then from there, I joined the military. I played for the Navy, and that was when I started coaching. Was when I was in the Navy. I started my first coaching gig was 1997 in Seattle, Washington, at the YMCA there, and I was, what was I, 20, like 23, 22, 23 years old, and didn't have any wife or kids or anything, family of my own or anything like that. That was a long way away still. But they threw a bunch of 4 and 5-year-olds at me, right? And I went there as a volunteer to volunteer my time, and they were like, "Well, what can you do?" And I said, "Well, I can play soccer." And they said, "Well, good, we need soccer coaches. So here's 15 4 and 5-year-olds. So good luck," right? And I tell people I was very ill-equipped to handle that mentally at the time. I wasn't very good at all, because when you're at your first or your second coaching gig, right, you tend to reflect back on how you've been coached.
Yeah.
Okay, and that it wasn't very good the way, because I was super intense. I was coached, recently at high school and Division One and stuff, right? Before that, and so it was, I was a little bit probably too intense for 4 and 5-year-olds, but I adjusted myself as the time went, and to try to get better results out of the kids, the players, mostly just about having fun. I wanted them to have fun, and when we first started, I could tell it wasn't very fun.
Yeah.
So, is the video okay?
I don't know what's going on. Hold on a second. Oh, there it is. That was a
Worked
glitch.
itself out. But yeah, so that was where my coaching journey started. And from there on, I just stuck with it. I kept coaching. And I wasn't doing any licensing or anything like that at the time, right? But I was starting to learn, and I stayed with the YMCA for a little bit. It was a great place for me to start and learn. Obviously, you're not getting paid or anything like that. You're a volunteer at places like that. And then I also started volunteering at local sports organizations, especially after I had kids. I really got into it with local sports organizations like around here. We have FFPS, Fun Fair Positive Soccer. We have something called SBMSA, which is Spring Branch Sports Association. So I did a lot of that, and then I eventually went into paid coaching for Corver as a technical skills coach.
Oh, great.
Yeah. And then from there, I went into the clubs, the club scene.
Yeah.
And I've been doing club soccer ever since.
That's interesting. I want to kind of touch back on like the whole YMCA. I think that is a huge thing that a lot of coaches, I feel, you have to go through, right? Some want to get into coaching and just like, okay, well, I want to be a coach. I have this experience, but you have experience playing, right?
Yeah.
Playing is one thing. Working with kids, it's a whole different world.
Yeah.
Whole different world, right? And how did you, how was your mindset shift when you said, you know what, I have to work with kids, I have to, did you do any research? Did you before, there was no YouTube at that time, but or much of the internet, if any at all, really, what did you do to educate yourself to learn about kids before you
I started looking around for mentors, kind of, right? To understand, okay, where can I get information, advice? And back then you just had to go to people as a general rule, right? You had to find people to get involved with. So the YMCAs and local sports organizations, were recreational organizations, were super important for reps for me, right? I tell people that coaching is like playing. It's just like playing. You need reps, right, to get better. Yeah. So you need players need reps with passing with the inside of their foot, receiving with the inside of their foot. They need reps at all of this. Coaches need reps to become good at the job. Just because you were a good player, honestly, to be honest with you, very few former professional players turn into good youth coaches, in my opinion, right? The ones I've seen aren't good at communicating. A great player generally can't necessarily tell you how or why he's great. He just is. And so I find that someone who's been through the grind of coaching, starting from your very basics, right? Like I said, the YMCA and rec leagues, all the way through. I got those reps, and I improved myself and my process as I did, And so I wouldn't have been a good club level coach at age 22 or 23 or 24. I wouldn't have been very good at all. Now I like to think that I'm pretty solid at the job, but we're talking 20 plus years of reps consistently. So that's what it takes, and you have to care about your craft and want to hone your craft and find a way to be better. I mean, I'm 24, 25 years into it now, and I'm still trying to find ways to be better every single week. So every training session, I started videoing my sessions because I wanted to be better at it. There's times when I videoed a session and gone, man, I wasn't really good. I just, wasn't my best work that day. So, and so I highly encourage that. If you're a coach and you can find a way to at least watch yourself, do it if you can. Yeah,
absolutely. That's good advice. And so as you fast forward, you said you transitioned from the YMCA and then you moved into Corver. How did you come across Corver, and why did you decide to become a Corver coach? Because I've taken Corver courses and I enjoy them. I like them.
Yeah.
right?
So
I really like it. And I saw the benefit. I'm so curious to hear your story about that.
yeah, so the way I ended up becoming a full-time coach is actually because it wasn't part of my plan. It happened as almost a necessity for me, right? Um, my wife at the time had a really good job, but my second child was now on the way, right? And I had a decent job at the time, but I was traveling all over the country for my job, and I wanted to be at home more. And I knew that leaving my wife, who had a full-time job that paid really well, with two kids by herself, probably wasn't going to be a good idea,
Yeah.
right? It would be hard, plus the cost of daycare and everything. And so um, that was when I decided to switch careers full time to
Wow.
become a full-time coach
Wow.
and put my eggs into the coaching basket. Now I had already done back then you had like a USSF license and e-licenses and stuff like that. I'd already done all of that, right? And so I answered an ad in on a website. I forget which website it was, but they were looking for coaches, and I said, well, you know what? They were offering a decent. It wasn't like a full time pay or anything like that, right?
Oh,
But I went and because I understood the technical aspects of things, um, and it was Corver, and they needed local coaches here in Houston, right?
oh,
And so I started working there, and then I started doing my Corver coaching courses,
yeah.
right? At the same time, and I just grew there. And the gentleman that ran the local Corver also had a local club.
Okay.
And so after I'd been with Corver for a while, he said, "Hey, would you like to move into club coaching?" And then that was how I transpired into that,
Oh,
right?
okay.
A
Got
little
it.
over a decade ago.
Yeah, no, that's good. And I see that I see the benefits and I see the Corver method and the way that they do things is very player centered, player individual focus on their ball mastery, on
Yeah.
their ability to be very good on the ball, at
Yeah, if
home,
you watch
anywhere.
our Rising Stars videos of our
Yeah,
trainings, it's all Corver ball mastery.
yeah,
That's so because I can't move kids into Rondo's positional play or any of that other stuff until they have some form of control with the ball,
mm,
right? So our youngest kids are all in Corver ball mastery, and the parents are all products of Soccer Starts at Home with Tom Byer.
yeah,
So I integrate those two, at those 3, 4, 5 year old ages,
yeah.
and that's how we get our players able to move into positional play, such as
Got
at a
it.
very early age.
Got it. So a question for you on that. Would you say that it wouldn't be wise to move players that are beginners into maybe doing rondos or positional play games, if they haven't had this foundation? Or is it something you kind of tinker with and try to, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't work? What is your personal view on that?
But it depends on each individual player's situation. Some players are able to pass and receive with the inside of their foot. If they're able to pass and receive, I can put them in a rondo. I just have to be able to control the amount of space and the amount of time and the amount of pressure that a player is under,
Yeah,
right? And I can do that by making the grids bigger or smaller or reducing the amount of pressure that's inside the space, right?
yeah,
So, I mean, I can control um, all of that, but there's a lot of value in taking the youngest kids and getting them to just play with the ball.
yeah,
One ball, one player,
yeah,
and together. And there's once a kid, falls in love and enjoys the ball, and just having it around. I think that was one of the things that really helped me out as a kid. I was never told don't play with the ball in the house. My mom let me take the ball everywhere. We took it to grocery stores and I walked around with it at my feet, and anywhere we went, I had the ball with me. And the same way that kids today carry a tablet, I carried a soccer ball.
Yeah.
Right. And so it was always at my feet. So it's no surprise that from a technical aspect, by the time I got into high school in the 80s, I was actually more technical than most kids, simply because now I was little. I was 4'11" my freshman year of high school and weighed about 90 pounds soaking wet, but I was good with a ball at my feet. Right. And so it was it was a big advantage for me growing up as a kid. And now that I know what I know, I make those correlations. And so it's super important for me that at the earliest possible ages, we get kids playing with the ball.
Yeah.
That's super important. And relaying to parents of those kids how important it is for the kids to have a ball at the house, playing around, multiple balls, preferably at the house, so they can just walk around with it. And because every time a foot touches the ball, your foot gets smarter.
Yeah.
So that's how I put it, at least.
Yeah, that's good advice. That's good. And also understanding, I think you know this, and I think you've seen it as well, the stages of how kids learn and what they're capable of, because between 3, 4, 5, 6, what is sharing? What is it? They don't even know what that means, right? Everything's about them. So the more, like you're saying, the more you can build that relationship with them and the ball and know that this is theirs and this is their best friend and they're going to have fun with this ball, right?
Mm-hmm.
The better the bond will be, so that when they get into the next stage of, how their brain thinks, they're going to be able to understand, like what you're saying. Now you can put them in different situations where it's more of a team aspect, right? But before, it's all about them and the ball, right?
Yeah. When you're talking about the littlest of little kids, and like I said, we've got 3 and 4-year-olds in our program.
Yeah.
That program is meant just to have kids introduced to the game.
Yeah.
That, play with the ball. It's actually more of an educational thing for parents than it is. I mean, because what am I going to do, with 2 hours a week, really, with the kids? To be honest with you, the trainings that I run with the kids, or that my staff runs with the kids, our staff there, it's meant more for the parents, saying, hey, this is what you should be doing with your young players at home.
Yeah.
Right. That's watch what we're doing here. Take these little movements home and play with them at home, and then that way you can be like, hey, what was that you were doing what was that you were doing with Coach Mike, the toe taps or the shuffles? Can you show me how you do that?
Yeah.
And then maybe work with your kids, play with your kids, learn to play with your kids.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it comes down to anything. It was something I've researched and like gone deep in. It's just the importance of play, right? Like free play, any type of play that kids it's a necessity. It's a necessity. No, it's not we're going to get to this. No, the kids need to play. All right. So it's super important. Cool. So after Corver, you got into, you said the club scene, right? To where you were at. So what was your journey after Corver? Where did you go after that specifically?
Well, I coached for Total Football Club here in the Houston area. We were a good small club at the time, only a handful of teams, and but it was a very strong club, and they named themselves Total Football for a reason. Right. And so I took a whole nother step as a coach at Total Football Club. I made a lot of advancements, and because I was now going full time, I studied the hell out of myself. Right. I studied a lot because I really wanted to be good. Yeah. And so I started reaching out and looking for resources and started learning a lot about, after I'd been there a little bit, I started learning about positional play training and becoming more adept at coaching rondos and positional play training. And I started really, really thinking about how to communicate with young players and maximize young player development. So that was that was really what I started studying for myself, and just working really, really hard on my craft. And I studied everything from the history of positional play training and to early childhood development, and communicating with young players and young children, from a teaching and an educator standpoint.
Yeah.
So that was when I really wanted to say, okay, if I'm going to go and I'm going to do this, I've got to be really, really good at it. And so that was I've always been kind of competitive that way, and competitive a lot with myself, right?
Yeah.
Trying to be better today than I was yesterday. And I threw myself heavy into that.
Oh, that's good. And I think that's important because you found out, I think what it sounds like, you found out what you wanted and how you wanted to coach, and
Yep.
what was important in your journey in coaching, right? And who you were serving. Because I think I've made this mistake, because you said it earlier. You're only going to do, when you start coaching, you're only going to do what you remember your coaches before you doing, right?
Yep.
And sometimes these former, pros, or you were saying, or myself, a former college player, high school player, or people that have passion to want to coach and be around the sport again. But unfortunately, the working with kids is, like we were saying, just completely different. Like, you got to know who you're serving, what stage they're at in their lives, right? Whether they're 11, 12, whether they're 6 or 7, what the needs are of this player, how
Yeah.
they learn, what they're capable of learning, and what they should be doing, right? And so that's huge. And you went out and you researched it, and you found out what you wanted, and what type of soccer you wanted to see played as well, which is important, right?
I think far too often coaches expect players to adjust to the coach, right? Instead of, what I was trying to do was adjust myself to get the most out of players,
Yeah.
and and how I communicated with them, how I spoke with them, talked to them, right? When you could be a little bit more firm, or maybe needed to be firm, and when you needed to show some empathy, and compassion, when it was time for serious, when it was time for fun. So, I mean, adjusting all of that. There's a reason why, kids have free time at school, right? They need a recess.
Yeah.
You got to be focused during this time when we're working on spelling and math and reading and things like that. But we're gonna let you let the steam off here.
Yeah.
Right. And so there's a time for focus and structure. And there's a time for, let's just go at it and have some fun.
Yeah.
Right. And I think I started getting better at that. That was one of the things I started as a coach getting better at, and started approaching it more like an educator.
Yeah, that's funny. That's funny you say that, because I have a 9-year-old, and I'm like, "What's your favorite part of school?" "Oh, after school." I'm like, "Why after school?" It's like, "Because we just play." And I'm like, "Yeah,
yeah, they love to play. They also realize that there's a time for focus, right, and a time for structure, and a time for learning. But you, as an educator, you got to be equal parts, right? You've got to be equal parts fun. Like, as a coach, you can't always be hard, right? Some coaches are loud, aggressive, and stuff all the time.
yeah,
And they've got to know that you can be pleased, that you can be happy. They've got to know that you're proud of them,
yeah,
right? Every single practice, I tell my players I'm proud of them. And I think that helps a lot. Whether we've had a good practice or a bad practice or whatever, thank you for coming. I'm really proud of you guys. All right, your effort was really good today. Even if they didn't perform the way I wanted, right, or they didn't quite grasp what I was trying to get across, I usually look at that as a flaw in what I was doing, right? And so if that has happened, I have to go back and review, how can I get that across to them?
yeah,
What else can I do to get that across to them? Because with me, we're talking about 7-year-olds most of the time. And so that's something that I don't think a lot of coaches, they either have too much pride, too much ego, or not enough knowledge. Most coaches are in one of those three, or I mean, I don't think very few of them don't care. I don't. Most coaches care, right? It's just that, you know, they care in the sense that, well, these kids need to adjust to me to learn the amount, and I'm like, no, that's not how kids work. Kids don't work like that. You're not talking to 25-year-olds. You're not a boss.
Yeah.
Okay. You're a mentor. You're a servant leader to kids.
Yeah. So, sorry about the video. I don't know what's going on.
No worries.
But yeah, after Total Football Club, what happened after that on your journey? So
I was with Total Football Club for roughly 6 years.
Oh, that's a good amount of time.
I don't bounce from club to club. It's not something that I do. And then I started looking for something new. You could call it a new project, essentially. There was a club real close to my home. It's a local club. The club I'm at now, SG1, I've been with them ever since I left Total Football Club. And I wanted to build something, you know, there. They were a very good club at the older age groups already. U19, U18, U17, U16. Yeah. Very, very good boys side and girls side combined. And they had a lot of structure there, but they needed some assistance from what I could tell with the structure of younger age groups.
Yeah.
And the first thing that I thought, and while this might sound a little egotistical, right? I looked at this club and I said, this club could use me, right? This is, I have the knowledge in the younger age groups in the foundation of the club.
Yeah.
That could really, really help take this club, organize it, and make it another level. They had really good leadership, which I love. The leadership at SG1 is just cherry, chef's kiss, right? And they had really, really good people. They needed more good people is what they needed. And it's in my backyard, it's in my community. And so, you know, they brought me in and they knew me real well, and they knew what we've grown to over at Total Football Club. And I don't want to say they gave me, you know, just complete carte blanche, but they let me do pretty much whatever I want. I still don't think after 3 years they've told me no to anything. And so, you know, and they let me build whatever kind of I felt needed to be built for the club to be successful. And it's we're doing pretty good so far. I even asked them to do some hard things, right? Like, we had groups of kids who were playing in a competitive environment that had no business being in a competitive environment. They were going out, and they were our U8s at the time, U8s, and they were playing against other clubs, and they were just getting blown out by 10 goals every single week, right? And I'm like, these kids have no business being out here. Let's take all of them and pull them back in-house and create an in-house league. Just let us work with them, right? Let me work with them for a while in-house. We'll play games against each other. And that's really usually a hard ask, right? Because you have to deal with parents. Parents think competitive is better. They think going out and playing against other clubs is a good thing. They like being able to yell and scream on the sidelines, and that wasn't being allowed with me, all right? None of that was going to fly. But it worked really, really well. And in the matter of a span of one season, the players had improved quite a bit and were ready to go back out and compete again. And so then we expanded the Rising Stars program, which was kind of like our rec program for little kids. We expanded it from 2 age groups to 4 age groups. I didn't like the fact that kids could just age out of the program, and you were either good enough to play competitive soccer, or you had to go back to like the YMCA or rec leagues or whatever, right? So I expanded it so that older kids who weren't good enough to say, or weren't developed enough, or didn't have enough knowledge to play at a club level, had a place where they could go and get good coaching and hopefully work up to that, right? Yeah. Rather than a tryout format.
Okay.
Right? Where you come try out, if you're not good enough, then they say, no, sorry, you can't play here. Right? If a kid comes in and they're like, you know what, we're not good enough yet, or we don't have the experience or the development level to play competitively against other clubs, but we have this other program here. Let's bring them into the program, get them used to being involved in the sport and learning some things about it. He'll probably get there in the future, right? Yeah. I think 8 years old and 7 years old is far too young to start giving up on kids, calling them has-beens already, right? Yeah. So it's you can never tell what a 7-year-old is going to turn into. Absolutely. I've seen kids who were electric at 7, 8, and 9 not be playing the game anymore by the time they were 13. And I've seen kids who were third teamers now play for our Houston Dynamo MLS Academy, right? So you never know how a player is going to develop, if they're going to fall in or out of love with the game or anything like that. So you don't want to label a kid as a has been or a never will be too early.
Yeah, no, of course. I think it's important also the community aspect, what you're talking about, of trying to keep kids as local as possible, because at least here in Southern California, we have some families driving, crazy 2.5 hours to try to just be on a team, where it's like, we don't need that. If you have, a good structure, or you have something local that makes sense, there's no reason at 10, 11 years old to be doing that.
Yeah, there's we're in a tournament. My 2015s are in a tournament here in Dallas in May. I think there's 3 Southern California teams in that tournament at U8. Sure. So they're coming halfway across the country to play in our next gen tournament.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, that's crazy. That's gonna be fun. But so tell me a little bit more about the way that you're structuring your program now, because I think a lot of the audience that's watching probably follow you on social media, see your videos. Like, I've seen you divide up your fields, your training fields to game fields into grids, etc. Like, tell us a little bit more about now what you're doing and how you're impacting, your program, and your thought process behind how you structure things.
Sure. So there's multiple levels if you look at from U10 through U8 for us, we want as many kids to be able to play as possible. Okay. So we actually have, so I don't want to reject anybody in those age groups. I don't want to be able, I want a kid to come say, hey, we want to play, and I'm going to go, okay, this is where they're at. Let's work our way through it. Right. And so sometimes that's the lowest level. Sometimes the player comes in and has some rec level experience, so maybe they're the second level up from us. Sometimes kids come in from other clubs, and they're trying to move, or they don't like what's going on where they're at, and maybe they're pretty good little players, and so maybe they go at a higher level, right? But I think kids in those age groups, I see kids at 9 years old getting rejected by clubs all over the place, right? And so I want to have a place for that kid to come in and learn. And so we have our Rising Stars level, then we have our pre-academy level. Both of those are in-house, right? Both of those are in-house games. Rising Stars is more focused for kids who are either just figuring out the ball was round, right? And they're just learning about the game exists. Maybe they don't have a culture of the game in their house or in their home, or they come from basketball mom or baseball dad, right? And so they're trying to experience the game for the first time. Okay. And then the pre-academy level is usually for kids who've been in the Rising Stars level for a couple of seasons now, and they're starting to really get it figured out. Okay. And they're starting to understand some things. Their technique is starting to improve. So we move them into an even more structured environment where we can start introducing the rondos and things like that to them, right? And then we move in from the pre-academy level to the academy level, and there's different brackets that you can play in the academy level. At the academy level, we're playing other clubs from around the city as a general rule, right? At the highest level, you're playing of the academy, you're also including in tournaments and things like that, to continue to challenge the players, and push them to be the best players that they're capable of being. So that's that. We've got all of these levels structured in here, and it's fluid. I can move players up mid-season or whatever as I like, right? And so if you take a look at our U8s right now, there's the Rising Stars, then there's the in-house pre-academy, then there's the small-sided development league that we're in, which is 5v5, and then the highest level is a 7v7 team, right? So there's so many levels that we can fit just about anybody in there.
Oh.
And
Wow. How many players do you have in your program from all divisions and levels, would you say?
From our ECNL U18s, boys
No,
side and
just
girls
just
side,
the just the
just
foundation.
the academy levels.
Yeah.
So if you take my 2015 group, which is the biggest age group we have right now, because they're U8,
Okay.
right? We have about 40 kids in that age group.
Okay.
So it's not like it's massive. It's not like I got 100 kids, right? The entire Rising Stars program combined, that starts at 2018 and goes to 2014. Now I have 100 kids in that, right? About 102, 103, something like that. We have but it's like I said, it's across like 5 age groups.
Yeah.
And it's boys and girls.
Got it.
So it's across 5 age groups, boys and girls side. We have about 100 or so players in that program. We're about 600 and something in the whole club. That's U18 all the way down. So it's not like we're a mega club or a massive club or anything. There's clubs here with 10,000 kids or more. It's Houston, or the 4th largest city in the United States.
Yeah.
So, it's nothing we've got 4 clubs here probably with 8,000 or more kids.
Wow.
In the city. And so, and then there's a bunch of clubs with 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 kids. So we're not big. I would consider us lower medium sized. We're also not a 2-team club either.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're in between there from a size standpoint. I personally manage the development of about 250 kids.
No.
And making sure that they're constantly being challenged and pushed and on the right level to take the next step. That's kind of my job.
Okay.
So
that's interesting. And then what is your main goal from what would you say the main goal is for the academy and Rising Stars, right? Is it to move them up in tiers to eventually play club? What's the goal for you and what's the goal for the club?
The goal is to maximize each individual player to get them as high or as good as they are capable of being, because that's different with every player.
Yeah.
Right. That's always been my goal, is to maximize each player's individual abilities while still having fun and enjoying the game and loving the ball and all of those other things. Yeah. Like I said, there's a fine line and a balance to walk in all of that. But I personally believe that you can maximize each and every player, right? And while still having fun, while still learning to love and enjoy the game. I think both are possible at the same time. I think you can develop a player's knowledge of the game, their ability to see the field, their cognitive abilities, while simultaneously developing them technically as well. Yeah. So I don't think it has to be. I know there's a big debate between one or the other out there. I think you can do both at the same time, and I don't think one has to be neglected for the other. And so it's just in a matter of how you teach it all, in my personal opinion. Yeah. So that's my role. That's what I do, and that's what we're trying to do.
Exciting. Oh, it's exciting because to tell you the truth, not everybody that gets into coaching wants to coach younger ages. Yeah. Right. And if a club is able to find someone that really wants to and is great at it and can find the passion and grow other leaders to do the same, then that's a recipe which I have found for success, to build even more players, more coaches. And at the end of the day, that's your bloodline for your club, because
Yeah.
you don't have to really focus so much on recruiting. You focus in-house, and then they sprout up. They sprout up. Every year there's going to be a new great
Yeah.
player, right? George Nelson?
I have never ever gone to another player and gone, hey, you should leave their club and come to us. I don't recruit. I don't poach. It's not what I do. We build who we build from our grassroots program all the way up. And those are the kids we go with.
Yeah.
Now, do players come from other clubs and join us? Yes, they do. When you see my team playing against your team, and my team is moving the ball all over the place and has a high level of both technical abilities, understanding of spatial awareness, right? Their decision making is really good. They're patient on the ball. When you see that, a lot of times, yes, parents come over and go, hey, when are your tryouts? I want my son to learn how to play like that, or I want my daughter to learn how to play like that, right? That's my best recruiting tool, right? Yeah. If you really want to recruit good players, develop good players, and they'll come to you. You don't have to worry about going out and trying to pick kids or anything like that. We keep everything in-house, and we grow from there. And if players want to come join us, we do tryouts 1 week out of the year. That's it. I don't need to try out any other time. There's clubs that do 2 and 3 tryouts a year. I don't need to. We do our tryouts. We open it up. There's a transfer period actually down here, believe it or not. And that was when we opened up our tryouts. So,
Got it.
So there's no reason for us to go out and recruit, as our teams are built young. Our players are built young, and we just try to grow them from there. And that's what I've always wanted to do. I have no desire to go to older age groups. I think we do the same thing actually with our coaching staff. By the way, I'm gonna track back. We have four coaches now that were former players at our club.
That's huge.
And so they've gone off, they've gone to college, they've come back, and we've hired them to be coaches. And I'm grooming the coaches. So we're even starting to grow our coaches in-house if we possibly can. We have 3 high school players right now who are assistant coaches. So 3 of our high school players that play for our ECRL teams, right, are also assistant coaches to full-time coaches like myself. And so they help out and help keep our coach to player ratio low. So you can build anything in-house. Anything you want in a club can be built in-house. The hard part, but it's not easy to do. It takes work, it takes thought, it takes planning, which is why most clubs go the other way, because they don't want to do the hard stuff. But it can be done. Everything you want can be grown in-house.
Absolutely. I agree. That sounds like a fun, exciting environment, because then you start to cultivate that culture of keeping everything in-house, from coaching to understanding to philosophy, and they're just going to be repeating the same things that you're telling them that they learned, and then it's just going to be year after year. You're not going to have to worry about finding other coaches that fit your model and fit the way that your club wants to play and develop players, etc. They're going to understand that already because they lived it, right?
And it's no shock that we have little to no coaching turnover, right? We have almost none. The coaches that are with us have been with us a very long time. We probably we're probably somewhere in the 5 to 7 year range is the average time spent with us right now. As coaches. I'm still one of the newer coaches there, and I've been there 3 years. And so that's something that's pretty exciting for our club.
Absolutely. It's good. No, congratulations. It sounds like a fun environment to be in, and
thank you.
For players, for families, for coaches. I think it sounds healthy, right? It sounds healthy. I think that's
try to keep it healthy. Yes.
Yeah. So going into now your journey of where you're at right now, I know you've you've also, I think, taken some Tovo courses, right? Did
Yes.
you take
Yeah.
that? So what do you focus on now, and how are you staying sharp in your coaching career right now? What are you learning? What courses are you taking, or what have you taken recently that you would recommend? It's helping you.
So the TOVO courses are super important. If you're a young coach and you're working with 5v5 and 7v7 teams, all right, and you don't understand positional play at all, like maybe you've never been involved in it or whatnot, I recommend you take the TOVO V1, right? If you're already familiar with how positional play works, take the 7v7 course. That's what I tell people,
Okay.
right? Because the V1 is going to introduce you to positional play training and the little intricacies of it, and uh, and help you really grasp how it works and how it helps develop the players, right? The 7v7 course is going to give you a training plan. So they've got, I think it's 13 weeks. I believe it is 13 weeks of training sessions lined up in there. It's been a while since I took it. 13 weeks of training sessions lined up in there to help you really take your kids from 4v4 to 7v7, right? And doing those kinds of trainings. So both courses I highly recommend. The next course I want to take is the V2. I haven't taken it yet, but I really do look forward to getting when I get the time, and if I can match up the time to the availability of the courses, right? Taking that. As far as USSF courses, I have no desire to go any higher. I have a C license right now. I don't think you need a B license to coach 7-year-olds. So I have no desire to climb any higher with the United States Soccer Federation courses. Uh, I mean, to be honest with you, I didn't need the C license to do this. But I mean, it was a professional goal for myself to at least get through that, and I did. I'm happy with it. I learned a little bit. The best thing about the USSF courses for me is meeting the instructors and meeting other coaches, and taking that time that you're there to share ideas and share backgrounds and thought processes and coaching strategies. For me, the best thing that I can keep doing at this point to continue to get better for me is to continue to study early childhood development. I need to continue to work on that so that I can get better at communicating with younger people, with little people, right? That's what because the better I get at that, the faster I'm able to get what's in my brain to their brain. Okay, so I have to become good at that. I can't expect them to adjust to me. I have to be able to get it into them. And so I think that's where I have to continue to keep bettering myself. So
That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot, because you have to serve the needs of the players that you have in front of you, right? And that's exactly what you're doing. Any tips or any fun exercises that you recommend working with little ones? Because it can't be all just structure, like you were saying. Like, anything you would recommend for someone that is roughly about the coaching the same age and stage? Anything that you've done that you find works, your core exercise, anything fun?
So believe it or not, I mean, once they get to a certain level of technical abilities, the rondos are cool, right? I recommend that you start rondos though with two people in the middle with balls at their feet. They love that. It's a keep away. You can do a 5 or a 6 against 2 in the middle, and just make the grid massive, right? Make it like 25 yards by 25 yards.
Okay.
And just have the kids, you can call it monkey in the middle, call it whatever you want. It's a rondo, right? But call it whatever you want to introduce the kids to it. And then you can transition the kids later on when they're comfortable from that into rondos, because then you can go, hey, it's just like the game we've been playing, only now the people in the middle don't have a ball at their feet, right? So, I mean, that's always fun. They love that. I highly recommend making ball mastery fun. And figuring out what your technique or your method is for ball mastery. I have a technique that I use where, we'll do a ball mastery move and then we'll dribble around and change directions for 30 seconds, right? And then we'll do a ball mastery move for a minute and a half, and then we'll dribble around and change directions for 30 seconds. If you try to do one move for too long, they'll lose focus. They're little kids
Yeah.
and they'll get bored. So you've gotta keep them moving. You keep, work on something for 30 seconds and then get them moving again real quick. And then work on something for 30 seconds and get them moving again real quick. So there's techniques out there that I recommend, but find your own way to have fun is what I'm saying. Something you're comfortable with. Find a way to make it fun for the kids and never forget the positive reinforcement. You can be hard, right? I have a team. My first team U8s, I'm not easy on them. I'm very, very demanding of them, but at the same time, I am equally fun and smiles and high fives and fist bumps the other way.
Yeah.
You can't be all
Yeah.
hard. You've got it. Yeah, they've got, once again, like I said before, they've got to know that they can make you happy and that you're proud of them, and because your opinion means a lot to them.
Yeah.
Right. Especially for kids like me. I keep teams for like 4 years. Right. These players go from age 4 to like age 9 with me. Right. So it's super important that they know that I'm proud of them and that, I appreciate their effort and that I respect them as players. It's super important that your players know that there's a respect there.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And that's a positive environment. That's a positive atmosphere where they know they're going to be pushed, but the coach also cares.
Yeah, you can if you're like, you can be demanding if you also have that. You can be hard to play for and easy to play for at the same time.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, you can. It's because I can go up to one of my players and go, hey, you're not having your best day right now, right? You're better than this. You and I both know you are. All right. So let's give me my player. Give me my guy that I
Standards.
usually
Yeah,
see.
you said standards.
Yeah, yeah. And so you can have that and be fun and enjoyable at the same time. You don't have to be one all or the other.
Absolutely.
So
Makes sense.
find that
I like
balance.
that. I like that. Yeah, as we wrap up, like I mentioned, I want to see what your what book you'd recommend for either a player, a coach, parent, whatever it is. What is it that you would recommend there?
I cannot recommend this book enough. I'm on probably my third time through it, and every time I read it, right, I find something new. I tell people all the time, I treat it like grandma's Bible, right? I got stuff in here. It's all highlighted right in here, and I've got, you can't really see it, it's all yellow, the yellow highlight. But yeah, I mean, it's I got stuff that I go through and I highlight it, and um, it's 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 just My Turn by Johan Cruyff. You can't read it enough. It's amazing. It tells you how he learned what he learned, and how he grew up, and the philosophy behind um, uh, total football, and the philosophy behind uh, Ajax, and how he grew up with that club. And Ajax is a club I love. Right, I love watching them play and enjoy their culture and their history because they produce players as a general rule from within, right? And so it's something that I try to keep. With me.
You make it your own.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
So My Turn by Johan Cruyff.
Got to get that one. Yeah, got to get that one. Yeah, and how can people find more information about you, connect with you, ask you questions, maybe pick your brain, or just see what you're working on? Where can people connect with you?
I have my biggest following on Twitter. I'm a little over 3,000 followers on Twitter. So it's at Texas Coach Mike. My training sessions are all on YouTube.
Okay.
And it's also at Texas Coach Mike.
Okay.
So both are on You can connect with me through direct message or whatever, through Twitter, at Texas Coach Mike. But my video sessions and all of that other stuff, I've got them categorized U6, U7, U8 in playlists, practices and stuff like that. You can follow it on YouTube. I just uploaded something this morning from yesterday. Yeah, it's both of them are at Texas Coach Mike.
Okay, I'll link it up in the notes, so
Okay.
anyone else that is watching can also connect with you there.
Excellent.
Any advice for anyone that is whether a parent or a coach that is of this age that you focus on? Any advice for them?
So for parents, relax. It's okay. Your kid's not going to be in the World Cup tomorrow, so make it fun. Even with my own daughter, right? I have an 8-year-old daughter now, and I'm the director of the club she's at. I mean, I'm a director of player development. We don't talk about the game after we've left the parking lot, right? I don't do that. I sit on the sidelines, I'm quiet, and I let her coach. I don't coach her. I'm daddy to her, right? So on the sidelines, I'm quiet. I trust my coaches. I trust our coaches to handle her, right? And then by the time we've left the parking lot, it's, hey, what do you want for lunch? Right? Daddy, how did I play today? I love watching you play. How did Coach Diana say you played today? Coach Diana said I played great. Well, then you played great. Yeah. If your coach is happy, you know what? You'll be happy. Yeah. Okay. And so, yeah, let's go get some lunch. And that's I've been coaching for over 20 years. So that's how I recommend a parent handle that. Sometimes the coach is hard enough to play for. They don't need two of that. They need a parent, they need mommy and daddy, and then they need the coach. They need the separation. So play with your kid in the backyard, right? They'll link the fun that they're having with you and the ball to love of the game, passion of the game, right? And continuing to play down the road. All of that will be linked together emotionally inside them. And watch TV, watch the games, go to games. If you got a local team, whether it be a USL team or an MLS team or whatever, a local college team, right? Go to games, have them watch the game. They learn a lot by watching what professionals do. Okay. A kid who's never seen soccer played won't know that the goalie, you can actually pass the ball to the goalkeeper, right? But kids who watch the game and have that culture will take that into their game. Yeah. So that's what I recommend for parents. Young coaches, relax. I was not very good at one point in time too, but study and find somebody you respect who has a lot of knowledge of the game, somebody you may want to emulate. Go to their training sessions, shadow them, do everything you can to learn, right, about the game and to increase your knowledge about what you want to do, hone your craft. So those are my recommendations.
Absolutely. Good advice. No, I appreciate it, because you talk to the parents as a parent and to the coaches, because I think it's important, because we get different types of viewers here that will find value in this interview. So again, Coach Mike, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for doing what you're doing. If I'm ever in the Houston area, I would love to stop by and see
come on by.
Great training sessions.
Because your house, come on by.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And to everyone that is watching, I hope you found a lot of value. Make sure you follow Coach Mike. We're going to link up the notes there in the YouTube notes, so you'll be able to click on the links, see videos, follow him on Twitter, etc. Keep up the good work. Thank you so much for your time again. All right. Have a good day.
Take care, bud.
Thanks. Bye.